3HL 104.5 The Zone, broadcasting live from SEC Media Days in Dallas, Texas. Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ronald Sylvester Slay. You having a good time, Slay?
I'm having a ball, man.
All right. We're going to have fun now. Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, with us on 3HL. Jim, good to see you again, man. How are you?
Yeah, great to see you guys.
How beneficial is this for you to be able to come and talk with players face-to-face?
I don't know.
Depending on what was said first.
My wife always asks me, she's like, why do you do this every year? And I said, well, everything's working right now, so I don't want to take my foot off the gas. I don't know what's working, but something's working. We're coming off our best year at the Senior Bowl. We had 110 guys drafted this year, which
43%.
43% of the draft. So I told her, I'm like, I don't know if this is part of it. If it is, we'll see. But, yeah, so I show up every year. So we'll see.
So you took over in 2018, and the transformation of this game has been just unbelievable. I mean, players talk about it, people look forward to it, and obviously the draft numbers, you can't ignore that. What has maybe the reaction from the players to you? How has that changed in kind of the last 6 years?
Well, They know me more now. I'll say that. That was the big reason why the Senior Bowl's been great forever. Let me start by saying that. This game's been great forever. The history's unbelievable. What we've done, we've marketed it better, I guess, and using social media. So, the big part was when I took the job, a bunch of guys in the agent community told me, they're like, Jim, the players don't know enough about your game. So when they would get the invite, they would go straight to the agents and say, should I do this or not? Now, hopefully, with social media, we get them excited. Now they know they want to play in it. So yeah, it's a little different. I used to show up at events like this, and again, still some of these guys don't know who the heck I am, but some of them do, and it's helpful.
You know what? Sometimes when you lead with past alums from the Reese's Senior Bowl, it's a little bit different. It kind of markets itself. You got guys coming back for practices, coming back for games. How influential have they been on the Senior Bowl when selling it itself?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to include some of those guys in the invite process, right? Like we'll use alums of a school to reach out to guys, and then this year we had our 75th anniversary, and so we did a 75th anniversary team. We had 17 of those guys back, so it was, and a bunch of them were gold jacket guys, and so it was Terrell Owens and all these great players. So to have them around the week, I mean, it really helped the event. And yeah, I mean, I tell our players, we just finished up our Hall of Fame weekend a couple weekends ago. D'Amico Ryans was there, so it was cool having D'Amico down. Again, now that he's a guy that's building a football team with the Houston Texans, he's seen the game from a player's perspective and now kind of a front office head coach perspective. So yeah, our players, that's us. I mean, our players are our history.
We're Titans country. We don't really like what D'Amico is doing there in Houston, right?
Yeah, they're going to be your competition for a while.
For a while, it seems like. Yeah, no doubt. Okay, let's talk about some of the prospects that you guys have an eye on coming into this season. And shoot, we can probably stay in the SEC and have a very large and long conversation, right?
Yeah.
What are you seeing kind of, at least within the SEC, as you're looking to seniors and juniors, right?
Yeah, I mean, now we can have juniors. That's a great point, Don. Last year was the first year we could bring all juniors. Before last year, for about a decade, we could bring guys that graduated. So we have had juniors in the game, but now it opens up to all of them. What's weird for me is being able to, like this morning, I woke up and put a tweet out about Garrett Nussmeier, the quarterback at LSU, and it felt a little weird. Brian Kelly was one of the first guys I saw down here. I'm like, Coach, I know he's got 2 years of eligibility, but
Brian Kelly's like, I'm going to need you to step back. I might need him for a couple.
No, he had a hell of a bowl game, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I will say this. I have had coaches call me, and I won't name names, but I've had coaches call me and be like, Jim, he's like, can you chill out? Can we pump the brakes on this guy? But I'm looking back on stats from last year. So out of the 110 guys we had drafted, 31 were from the SEC. So obviously it's a conference that we have to hit hard, and you can. I mean, everyone wants to start at quarterback. Last year we had Rattler and Milton, and this year's group with Carson Beck, and I think Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers, even outside the SEC, are probably the top two guys heading into the year nationally. And then you got Jackson Dart and Graham Mertz at Florida. So just starting there, but there's so many good impact players. I mean, Pierce right in your backyard, James Pierce at Tennessee. So
what do you think about him?
Really athletic, man. Really athletic. I won't throw out Von Miller's name, but I guess I'm throwing out Von Miller's name a little bit. You know, because Vaughn's thing was he was so super athletic and explosive. And to me, when you watch this guy, he can rush one-on-one and he can also rush off other people. And that's what Byron Young was so good at Tennessee, was rushing off other people on the stunts. And we just had Byron back in Mobile a couple weeks ago as one of our rookies of the year. What do you have, eight sacks last year for the L.A. Rams? But, yeah, Pierce is just – you can get to the quarterback, you're going to get drafted high. That's the bottom line when you're that athletic. So, yeah, he's a really good player. Obviously be one of our top targets.
So – other possible prospects from Tennessee? How many guys are you kind of looking at, and what are you thinking about their roster?
So I think we have – I said off the air we had 7 draftable grades. I think we have 8 draftable grades right now in Tennessee guys, and we are grading glass half full right now. So like when you work for a front office in an NFL team, that's what you do. You grade glass half full in the summer, and then you'd much rather push guys down the board than raise them up. Like even me, like at our place, like I hate getting surprised in November and guys popping up off the radar. I'm like, man, I didn't even know about this guy. So we're going to have, when we put out our watch list here on August 21st, there's going to have over 700 players on it, which is not I don't love that. I like being around 400, but this is the last year of that extra COVID year.
Right.
So this is going to be a really bloated draft class. So we saw a lot of guys go back to school that we had day 3 grades on last year that would have been drafted a year ago, but they came back for the NIL stuff. So, you know, the offensive line's got a bunch of guys, Mays and Spragans and all those guys, and you guys could probably give me an update on Brew McCoy. He was a guy we really liked last year. I hope he's bouncing back, health-wise. Hope he's coming back. So, mention Pierce, and there's a bunch. So yeah, 8 guys.
Nice.
I know they say Brew he's supposed to be focused and ready like no other. So got all the NIL stuff out the way, focused on football, and is dialed in. So I expect some big things from him.
He'll be healthy, though?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. No, he was a guy. We would have invited him last year had he been healthy.
So how do you go from Jim Nagy, executive director of the Research Senior Bowl, how do you go from 700? Like, what's that process?
Well, we just hired our staff, so every year is different at our place. We hire a new staff every year with guys that get let go in the NFL. It's important to me that we have experienced eyes watching these players. We owe it to these players to do it the right way. So we've got a guy that was a college director with the Arizona Cardinals. We got a guy that was the pro director of the Houston Texans. So it's an experienced staff, and we're going to put eyeballs on all these guys. And again, a year ago at this point, just to show you our process, a year ago at this time, we didn't even have a grade on Xavier Leggett at South Carolina. He ended up being one of our first-round draft picks. So we will start. We will start new. I tell everyone, like, it's important we've watched the junior stuff. It's important we have a starting point. But we need to start over. We owe it to these players. They've all been in the weight room. They've all been on the practice field getting better. So we will start from scratch when we kick off week 1.
I think I ended up running into – I worked a midweek MAC game last year, Toledo, obviously Quinyon Mitchell and all of that. I worked a couple of Toledo midweek MAC games, so got to really see him in person. But I ran into your Senior Bowl scouts at every single one of those games during the week. And then, you put out, guess what, Max and Hook. Here's another guy from Toledo. I'm just curious how you go about finding – these guys that the entire country doesn't already know about.
Yeah, I appreciate you commenting on the Max and Hook post. I saw that the other day. That was awesome.
I love that kid.
Yeah, I do.
Like, he's legit. Yeah.
I do too. So I was up in Detroit for the draft, and it was the day after Quinion got picked in the first round. Jason Candle, the head coach, had me come down and speak to the team, and I met Max. And the guy's going to be leaving Toledo with his MBA.
Right. Super smart.
And he's a really good football player. But we watch all the FBS guys. If you're a starter at the FBS level, we will watch you. Now, when you get down to like the FCS level, D2 level, the first starting point is the All-American and All-Conference teams. But really, a lot of it is just friends in the NFL. Like, we'll get a call. I always use the example of Quinn Miners was a kid a few years ago at a D3 school, Wisconsin Whitewater, and we would have never found a kid at Wisconsin. I mean, without our friends, we would have never found that guy.
That makes sense.
But he ends up in the Senior Bowl, and he goes in the 3rd round of the Denver Broncos, and now he's one of the best guards in the NFL. So having those connections, I mean, my 20 years in the league helps a lot.
Do you have college coaches during the season? They're like, hey, man, I don't think you're looking at – you need to look at this guy.
All the time.
I'm sure that helps too.
It does. And so just those relationships at the college level. This whole life's about relationships, right?
Sure.
So I'll for instance, I'll post something about Max and Hook, and then another MAC coach will hit me up and be like, hey, check out our guy.
Yeah.
You know, like we think Hooks too. We scouted him last year when we played him, but our guy's this. So yeah, the coaches really are helpful in the process.
There he is. He's Jim Nagy, Executive Director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Jim, always good to see you, man. Thank you.
Awesome to be on. Thanks for having me.
All right. 3HL, more next. 104.5 The Zone.